How much money can I give you? No conditions. I don't need to read the strata documentation. Please, please, please. I'll pay $150,000 over ask. Dude, what are you waiting for? Another 20%? It doesn't get better than this. This is a buyer's market. Go enjoy it.
They'd rather wait and spend a little bit more just to have the certainty it's not going to get worse.
Nobody wants to be greedy when everybody else is afraid. I'm saying it's a stupid move right now not to be acting in this market.
You're upsizing from your house?
Yeah, of course.
That's a real flex because your house is already big.
Property ladder, bro. I'm not stupid.
I thought you were at the top. I thought you were at the top of the mountain.
Dude, there's a long way to go. Did you just see the new $25 million listing for a condo in downtown Vancouver? There's a long way to go.
That's never going to sell, though.
Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds.
Welcome back to the Tom Storey Show. Steven, it is Super Bowl Sunday. Have you got your bets in? Who are you cheering for? How many wings will you be eating today?
Go. Who's in it? Go.
Kansas City. Because they're in the Super Bowl every year.
Oh, look at that.
Because the refs love them. And then you've got the Philadelphia Eagles.
Is that what it is? Or are they just the best team? Everybody said that too about the New England Patriots. Like, oh, everybody giving them whatever.
They're a really good team that gets some questionable calls.
I watched some of those. I don't know. I guess.
I think pretty much everybody other than someone living in Kansas City is rooting for Philly today. So I guess that's what I'll say I'm rooting for.
Ooh, but is that who the other team is?
Yeah, the Eagles are in it. The Eagles are in it. So it's basically the Eagles versus Taylor Swift is the Super Bowl this year. I never really got into football. Like I'm a hockey and like soccer is my favorite. But I was watching the game between the Chiefs and the Bills, right? And I got into it. I was cheering for the Bills huge. And I realized like I never cared about anything with football. And then I was like pissed off when they lost. So it's just another lesson. It's like, I'm not allowed to cheer for teams because if I cheer for teams, they don't win. And my team never wins ever.
You're a loser. Tom Storey's a loser. Football is the only sport that I can watch the entire game and not care which team is on. Like I can't do that with anything else. Like if it's hockey and there's not the Canucks playing, I just don't care. Same. I'm like that with every other, like
I only watch
maybe like the World Series or something, or maybe the last 4 seconds of the NBA maybe, but like I can't watch a lot of it. Football though, I can watch Cleveland play the Cincinnati's. I don't know.
Huge fan over there. Soccer is my version of that. I can watch like Premier League on the weekend. I can watch like 6 games and I'm happy. But hockey, I pretty much would only be watching Leafs games. All right. Well, Super Bowl Sunday. I think the game starts at 6:30 today, Steve. So once you're done listening to your favorite real estate podcast, you can go check it out. Is it 3:30 your time? 6:30 for the rest of most of Canada. Subscribers. I'm going to make a pitch here as we start the show. I'm thinking I've got 2 ideas, and I'd love for the audience to tell us in the comments what you prefer. I want to do a big giveaway when we hit either 7,000 or 7,500. We can figure it out. I'll do an announcement on it. And it's pretty simple. You just have to fill out a form, make sure you're publicly subscribed to the show, and we're going to give something away. And I've been kind of thinking of ideas. We can do like one-off, really cool merch that we can send people that's actually good quality and done very, very well versus some of these other crappy t-shirts that we've been sent from other shows.
Oh, they're so bad. How about this?
Or
how about this?
A Karrasch Real Properties water bottle.
Very nice. Remember before Stanley's, these ones were cool?
Are those Yetis?
I don't know what it is.
Something like that. Icicle or something. Or for my Toronto people, I do have a few Leafs games over the next few months that we could give away a pair of tickets to the games, and they're 12th row gold tickets, really, really good. So if you've been holding back from subscribing, make sure you get subscribed because when we hit either 7 or 75, I got to figure it out. We'll do a big giveaway. I think it'll be fun for the show.
So stupid, Tom, because you're always like, oh, ask the people to subscribe. And I'm like, nobody cares. Like, just whatever.
Let's just put
out good. But when we ask, there's like 2 weeks ago when you didn't ask, there was like 78 new subscribers, and then last week there's no ask, and then there's like 2 subscribers, and you're like, oh wait, people actually need to be prompted. But I did that same thing. I didn't realize I wasn't subscribed to Kill Tony, but I listen to Kill Tony quite a bit. And then he's like, apparently I've been told by my producers I have to ask them to subscribe. And then I was like, oh, I'm not subscribed either. So there you go.
I find out more that people listen to our show directly from our guests than anyone tells me. Like when we have a guest on, like when Ziegelstein was on and a few other people, they're like, oh, I got a bunch of messages from people saying they enjoyed that episode. I'm like, none of those people have told me they've ever listened before. So I think a lot of people just quietly consume. And if you've been doing that, we'd appreciate if you can subscribe. Stephen, we have now completed month number 1 of 2025. January 2025, we had a few things happen. We had new mortgage rules at the end of last year click in. Have they made a difference? We'll stay tuned to find out. We had another rate drop. Bank of Canada's overnight rate is now at 3%. And for the most part, and I want to get into this a little bit today, mortgages, fixed and variable, are below 4.5% across the board. How did you find January 2025? Was it better than last year? Was it worse than last year? What was going on in your business, and then what was going on in the general market?
Way worse than last year. We did
for you.
Yeah, for our team, for sure. I think we had our best January of all time, though, last January. So, I mean, it was plugging along. It was a below average month, which it should be, I guess. But the board stats are crazy. Like, we're recording this, I think, on Obama's inauguration 17 years ago. But like, I'm just looking at the stats. So what I'm trying to say is the stats aren't out yet for January when we're recording this, but I'm just looking, and like, we have 1,200 more listings in our board to this point that have been recorded, and we have 100 less sales. So
interesting.
Last year we were like, okay, we're taking off. This year we got inventory. We got inventory on inventory, and the saleable stuff is saleable, and everybody else is holding on to those prices because, I was talking to a guy the other day, actually referred by a guest here on the show in the past, and who sent me a bunch of referrals. Thank you very much. I won't name you because you might find out who this is about. But, the guys, just the hard sell, right? The sellers right now, when they're reaching out to me, they're giving me the hard sell on why I should list their property so much higher. And it's like, guy, I'm the one on your side. You don't have to, like, I'm going to be saying all this stuff to the buyer. You don't have to sell me on why your place is worth $80,000 more than the other one bedroom that it's not worth more than $80,000 for. Right? Like, everybody's trying to give me the hard sell on why. Like, I had one the other day where, when they fill out our calendar link in the description below, yours is the first link, mine is the second link. Maybe I should change that. Maybe I'll get more appointments. But like the laundry list of like highlights of the property in that email. And I'm just like, first of all, there's no chance I'm getting this listing because they're already trying to hard
They've
sell
copy
me
and pasted that to 4 other people before they reach out to you.
Oh, totally.
Wow.
So, but it's like these hard sells on like why mine is so much more. And I'm like, guys, this is not the market where you're going to try and get so much more. Does it look like I'm wearing a Pope's hat? I
was going to say, it's very weird the way you had it positioned on your head. Yeah, that's better. No, I don't like that. Pull it down. Pull it down. Okay. Less of your face, the better.
What are you finding? Are you everybody unrealistic with their askings?
No, I'm actually finding the difference. But that's what I wanted to ask you is most of these sellers that you're talking to, is this the first time in many, many years that they're listing this property for sale? Like they didn't unsuccessfully try to sell it last year?
Most, but not all. Definitely.
And the ones that tried last year unsuccessful and they're coming to you, are they being more realistic than the people that are first time sellers? Does that make sense?
No, I'm getting all those calls. Actually doing a video on it right now. The bring me a buyer people. I don't want to go in the market. Just bring me a buyer.
Sure.
Or the people that are already on the market with other people. I've had more than one call in the last week where people are like, hey, this is my listing. What should I be priced at? And I'm like, go ask your agent, man. You didn't hire me. So I'm getting a lot of that right now too. So we're currently, I'm just looking here, 6,615 active listings on the market in the Fraser Valley board. That is a healthy, balanced market for June.
Okay, but not for January.
Not for January.
You almost caught me there. Because I found I haven't really been getting a lot of pushback. There's a few listings we have for sale that I think we should adjust on at this point, but people just kind of want to hang tight because, well, the last rate cut happened and let's see. And it's weird because like we're getting showings, right? Like it's not like it's complete silence. We're getting showings.
Mhm.
And I actually had one that was on market end of last year that we just sold for a price that I don't think we could have got at the end of last year. And then we had one, this is why like property type is so important. We had one that was a condo townhouse, but in Toronto, you've got like the condo townhouses that are the communities of townhouses. And then you have the
Mhm.
condo townhouse that is at the bottom floor of a, 35-story condo. So it's a condo townhouse, but the maintenance fees are way higher because it's attached to the building.
Yeah.
The condo townhouse communities that have like, the roof deck and there's lots of stairs in these buildings and things like that. But I put one up for sale. We sold it in 10 days with 2 offers over the asking price. And because that's what people want. But I have seen a lot of conversations in Toronto. It was like a under $900,000 price point. It's kind of like it's the move up from a condo, but you can't afford a semi-detached yet. And you need to stay under $1 million.
So when you mean condo townhouse, you mean the townhouse at the bottom of a condo. You don't mean stratified townhouses.
See, that's where it's a little bit confusing. No, when I say condo townhouse, you could split it into 2 different sections in Toronto. It could be at the bottom of a condo,
Okay.
or we could just have like a purpose-built community. I mean, purpose-built as not a condo, not rentals, where it's just all townhouses. Stratified. Yeah, but it's still a condo townhouse in Toronto.
Like your old place, that never would have been freehold.
No, my old place was freehold.
It would never be freehold. Wow, maybe there's some new stuff that
there's not tons of freehold townhouses,
but it's all like there's a strata together, right? So it's interesting because there's definitely somebody that's listening to this right now where I'm doing an evaluation on that type of property, like the townhouse at the bottom of a tower. Beautiful unit, the best unit in the complex. Like you say, though, the maintenance fees are crazy. They bought close to the peak and they're thinking about moving on just for other reasons, right? It's not that they can't afford it and that sort of thing. And I'm just like, man, I just don't have good news for you right now. Like, we're not going to be near peak. We're going to be dramatically lower than peak.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful unit. But when your maintenance fee is nearing $1,000 a month, like.
How many square feet is that unit? Like, what would
you
think?
I want to say 13 to 1,500.
See, like that's not even that bad. Like maintenance per square foot, that's like 75 cents per square foot for maintenance. That's not that bad.
It's not that bad, except you're not in downtown Vancouver. You're in Surrey, right? So you're in just as an aside, if you were to go into a regular townhouse complex that wasn't connected to the tower, your maintenance fee would be $450.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say too. Like the one I just sold that was over 1,300 square feet, the maintenance was $399. If that was at the bottom of a condo, that maintenance would have been $850 or more.
Yeah. And the reason, I guess, for the people listening, so we can explain, so it makes sense, is because it's done off of unit entitlement, at least here in BC, right? So when a building is done, they basically, there's not exactly how they do it, but they basically total up the square footage and they go, okay, how much does everybody have? And then the 1 bedroom has a $400 maintenance fee, and then the 1,500 square foot has a $1,500 maintenance fee, and you're kind of hooped if you're in those places, right? Like they're beautiful units, but you got to be wanting that townhouse lifestyle with all that space in a more of an urban area, right? And it's, I don't know. I think if you're going for that type of unit, most of the time you're going to something that's just more suburban.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. These ones that are the stratified townhouse, that's how you would call it. They're typically not like the most centrally located. Where the condo townhouse at the bottom of a tall building is downtown and really well located, but the maintenance is certainly higher. Like in Toronto, for any condo property, if you can get maintenance fees right now, and let's say not, it's tough because some have parking, some don't, and then it changes the maintenance fees. But let's just say generally like 75 cents per square foot for maintenance is like pretty good. We've seen buildings that they're not even 10 years old and it's $1 a square foot for maintenance. So $1,000 for 1,000 square feet. And I guess in like old buildings that includes still like basic cable and there's no hydroelectricity, everything's in that, you can make the argument. But there's some buildings that like during the pandemic, maintenance fees in condos in Toronto went crazy. Like everyone I know saw an increase in their maintenance fee over that period of time, and newer buildings are getting close where it's like that buck a square foot's always been kind of like my metric. I'm like, I don't love if it's over that number, but if it's an older building, I'm okay with it. There's some newer buildings that are getting there pretty quick.
There's some
little
old
bit
buildings
concerning.
There's some old buildings around us. There's not many of them, but there's a few where they were like built in the 80s, and they had like a deal with like the TV provider back then,
there's a few in
which is now also the internet provider.
Yeah.
So like a lot of these people get all that stuff like tossed in, and I'm like, do you know how much you're saving right now by the fact that maybe it's dial up or something, but like, do you know how much you're saving right now because this agreement was made by BC Tel in 1983? And yeah, so there's not many of them though, so don't hold your hope.
There's a few in downtown Toronto, like on Bay Street, like I think 1055 Bay, Polo Club 1 and 2, 44 St. Joseph, that includes everything, including basic cable. And I don't know about internet these days, but those older buildings, you know what? There's perks to them as well.
We talked about the condos, and I was just actually doing last week, I guess we talked about the condos specifically in Toronto. I was just doing a little research around Surrey, and I'll give you a story of somebody I met off of YouTube who bought a beautiful townhouse in South Surrey. I want to say they bought it about a year ago on pre-sale, technically.
A free, what kind of townhouse? Now that we've
talked about this, strata. Everything when we say townhouse here, it's the same
townhouse complex.
It's a townhouse complex. They're all the same.
So
he bought that, and then I was like, you could probably put your one bed up for like $485, $489, and you're probably going to sell. And he's like, no, it's not ready for a year. We don't want to do that. So then we hit the tough market in March and April and May and June and July, August and September. And it just kept so we finally got it sold in, I think, September for like $450.
How many square feet was it?
That was highly contested. Let's say give or take 500 square feet.
Why is it highly contested? Realtors, it's time to up your game. Realty Ninja allows you to create a stunning lead capturing and hassle-free website that looks great and will match with your current brand. They are a sponsor of this show, and they're giving listeners 20% off your first year, and you don't pay $1 until you launch. Join the thousands of real estate agents across this country, including Steve, the cheapest person I know that uses their services. realtyninja.com/Tom. And now back to the podcast. You can't just do the
actually,
measurements?
This is very, very interesting. All of the listings in the building are registered at the one bedrooms are all registered at 510 square feet on the strata plan.
Yeah.
We had it measured at 479. That's a very, like, as soon as you cross that 500, you're going from a regular one bed to a smaller unit, right? So, when our disclaimers on the listing were like, hey, this is what the strata plan says. Right. Hey, this is what our measurements say, buyer to verify. So that's all done. So let's say it's 500 square feet. I was just doing some research this week, and that is now the last sale over 450 in the building.
That has parking?
Yeah, they have one. Most of them still have parking. Again, we're in downtown Surrey, not downtown Vancouver, right? So
sure.
But so I want to say a year ago, my evaluation was 485, and now it's 425. So what is that? Is that 20%? Is that 18% or something? Like, there is mass opportunity there at this point in time. You got to be able to grind it out. You got to be able to, and like, people don't want to accept these offers. There's still those same units listed at 519 as well. But the last one that sell was 425, and the one before that was 430. There's just so much opportunity there. I should actually probably do my job and crunch the numbers and figure out how that affects rent right now. Because also now rates, like you mentioned, 429 or something like that. Maybe this isn't such a bad investment now.
Oh, so it's finally getting to the point that you're looking at it from an actual investment purpose, not even just end user, and prices are going down. Maybe I should
end users, I think, are, and I put it on my channel, and I'll say it here again, stupid if you don't take advantage of this. If you're not taking, like, think about what you were going for. You were like, how much money can I give you? No conditions. I don't need to read the strata documentation. Yeah, just please, please, please. I'll pay $150,000 over ask. Now prices are down 20%, at least, probably that unit would have sold for at least $100,000 more at the peak of the market. You have no competition. You can do all your due diligence. You can get a home. So the homeowners, like, come on, guys. Now, the really nice stuff, same problem you're having, right? The really nice stuff is still flying off the shelf, multiple offers, that sort of thing. But like these investor condos right now, man, if you want to go live in one, dude, what are you waiting for? Another 20%? Of course I am, because I don't own real estate and I'm in the comments shit talking it. No, dude, it doesn't get better than this. This is a buyer's market. Go enjoy it, buyers.
If you were walking down downtown Vancouver and you're like, I need a coffee. Yeah, I got to start my day. I need some caffeine in my body. And you saw two coffee shops that were across the street from each other. And one of them had a line out the door and the other one had nobody in there. Which one would you naturally say you would want to go to?
Me?
Give me your answer, then give me the general public's answer.
I mean, I guess everybody likes the coffee at the one, but I'm going to the one with no lineup because I want convenience.
But is it worth the risk that if you go to that one, it could be the shittiest coffee you've ever had in your life, and there's a reason why no one's in there?
Is it Tim Hortons?
No, I'm not talking about brands of coffee. I'm just saying.
So let's change this.
Two equal coffee shops.
You just said the shittiest coffee you've ever had, and I just said Tim Hortons because that's what it is.
I don't think it's the worst. It's not good. It's watery, but it's not the worst.
The worst. I would rather have the coffee on an airplane than Tim Hortons. Okay? So what I'm saying is, if it's Starbucks and it's lined up, I'm going to Starbucks. Okay. If it's Tim Hortons, I'm definitely never going there unless like
you're missing the point of my analogy.
I am missing the point.
Totally taking this another direction. For most people, where would you feel more comfortable walking into? The one with the line, right? That's what's going on with the market right now. For the sake of your
story, Tom, yes, I will say yes.
Because the chance of going the one without the line and buying that condo at $429 that used to sell for $480, $495 is you could be getting a great deal, but it could go down to $400,000. Why didn't I just wait? Because I think, and let me know in the comments if I'm onto something here. Most people, Steve, would rather pay $10,000 more for that condo and pay $440 for it instead of $430, just knowing that there's been a bit of activity and that they feel comfortable that they can enter because they know it's not going to keep going down. They'd rather wait and spend a little bit more just to have the certainty it's not going to get worse. That seems to be the general feeling. Not for all property types, but for the smaller condos in both of our markets right now.
That's always everybody though, right? Everybody wants to be greedy when everybody else is greedy. Nobody wants to be greedy when everybody else is afraid. I'm saying it's a stupid move right now. If you have a need for it, it's a stupid move not to be acting in this market. Personally, like I'm always planning the upsize. I got less than 5 years in my place. I don't know when it's going to happen, but let's say it's 5 years.
You're upsizing from your house?
Yeah, of course.
Oh man, that's a real flex because your house is already big.
Property ladder, bro. I'm not stupid.
I thought you were at the top. I thought you were at the top of the mountain.
Dude, there's a long way to go. Did you just see the new $25 million listing for a condo in downtown Vancouver? There's a long way to go.
That's never going to sell though.
I mean, it is owned by one of the richest people on the planet, like the Prince of Dubai or something. So like, who are you going to sell it to? The second richest person on the planet? I don't know.
Your buyer pool is slim.
By the way, paid $25 million for it 12 years ago, and now offering it for $21 million or something. So like, anyway,
I don't want. Wait.
What I was trying to say.
I'm going to let you come back to it. I'm going to let you come back to it, but I had a client
don't even know what it is anymore.
No, you're talking about upsizing from the house you're in now. I'll get right back to it. But I had a client that was from Vancouver, moved to Toronto, moved back to Vancouver. So he's back in Vancouver now. And years ago, he had bought a new construction condo at, I don't know if was there a Trump condo in Vancouver at one point? Did they change the name?
I think so. I don't know Vancouver.
Anyways,
I believe
it doesn't matter. The point is it's still not worth what he bought it for pre-construction like 10 years ago. So not everything is created equal. And it's not because it had that guy's name on it. That's what I'm saying. I'm just in general, Anyway, Stephen, you're looking to upsize from your big house to an even bigger house?
No, but okay, so I do remember what I was going to say. Thank you for reminding me. I would way rather transact in this market than where we've been over the last since 2012 or since 2020. I would way rather transact in this market than any other market, and selfishly, a crash would be fantastic because I would love
Because
to
you're
get half of
upsizing.
the new mortgage I need, right? But like this is like, okay, I got to sell my house, and then there's going to be 5, 6 or whatever to pick from. What I am noticing, because I'm looking at heading towards larger or more expensive property or both, the large properties are going up at a much quicker rate than houses like mine.
Sorry,
So,
value or number of listings?
Yeah. Like,
Really?
no. Like the value, like if I'm going to a higher end property, so let's say I'm going from my house, which is a typical suburban house, to like an acre with an old house on it, or maybe a newer house on it, or half an acre or something a little further out in the valley, those values have gone up disproportionately to like, and not even same percentage, like they're going up faster. And I think it has to do with those places don't have the density. So as a result, like they're gonna stay, the people that want to live in those properties with like, you can't see your neighbor, they're willing to pay for it. Right. So, and they're growing. But the crazy thing is that, did you see that article I sent you the other day that was like, this is the first decent article I've read in a long time about real estate. It actually said density will solve nothing and it will actually make it worse.
Do we not have 25 years of data to prove that already?
But density actually, it decreases the cost of each individual unit, but it increases the price per square foot.
Exactly.
So it actually makes it more expensive to live. And this article was just like, Canada's problem is not that the cities need more housing. It's that we need more cities. And it was all about like, listen, man, we got to spread this out. If you have 2 options, if you've got option 1 and option 2, and then option like 3 is a distant third, and let's face it, Calgary right now, you're a distant third. It's just like, you just don't stand a real chance of actually bringing down the affordability in those 2 major markets. Just not going to happen.
You know what's crazy is the Greater Toronto area now has 7 million people living in it. I'm not talking about Ontario. I'm talking about just the Greater Toronto area. The population of Canada is 40 million. Just the city of Toronto and its surrounding areas makes up 20-ish percent, 21, 22% of the entire country. Like, that's crazy. How big Canada is. That's crazy.
And why does everybody need to work on Bay Street, or I don't know, name a street, King, Queen?
No, you had it right the first one. Bay's fair. Yeah.
Like, everybody has to work right downtown. Like, why can't we spread this out? Why isn't there a whole big, like, just spread this out? Man, you guys, it's flat as all can get out. Like, when you drive to Hamilton, there's a slight hill off to one side. And then everything else, the tallest thing in Ontario is the power lines, right? I think they're taller in most areas than the CN Tower. Like, there's just power lines everywhere. Just, that's all. So I don't know, like, spread it out, man. Like, when we drive out to your cottage,
yeah, I know.
Spread it out, man.
Lots of land.
And why can't business be there? Ooh, people are getting called back to work like crazy.
I met with a seller yesterday morning, actually, because all of our business no, I shouldn't say all of it. A lot of it is sell my condo, buy me a house. That's a lot, more than 50% of my active business. So we're game planning with these people. How do you do this? Whatever. And I had asked her, like, where do you want to buy the next house? And we had talked about the different areas. And she works for a large company that everyone would know if I said it, that you would think is a Toronto located company. And they've now brought them back to work 5 days a week, which it was like 2. And they've just changed the location of their office to about 45 minutes on a good day with reasonable traffic outside the city. And they want to keep the 5 days. And this person was like, I'm thinking about changing my job. Like, I'm not doing that.
Either changing your job or moving is what we're seeing. So I'm actually seeing people do the other side, the other way now, that they're considering getting closer to town, because I know it's people that I've spoke to. Amazon, everybody back to work. WestJet's a fun one. I was talking to somebody. They were hired remote they've been working in BC. Guess where WestJet's head office is?
Ireland. I don't know.
No, it's in Calgary. Come on, you're so Toronto. So
They get some
guess who
tax
gets?
breaks in Ireland.
They're commuting to Calgary.
Who owns WestJet now? Yeah, they used to have the ads at like, we're owners too, and that
They
stopped.
were. They got bought out.
I wonder who owns them.
They technically got worse at that point. They were.
I think like BlackRock owns like a bunch of airlines in the States. If you actually look up who owns some of these companies, I think people will be very surprised.
Everybody's owned by 4 people.
Basically.
Klaus Schwab or whatever his name is.
All right. I want to bring this into a new direction for our conversation today.
You can just do that, Tom. You don't have to announce it.
No, as a host of a show, I want to kind of, visually I guess not visually at all. You know what? I'm just going to try. I'm going to start this one over. There's 5 different categories that I am watching in my market. And I want to give you what I'm seeing in them. And then Steve, you can jump in with your market. So you've got condos, which we kind of talked about, so we can skip that. You've got semi-detached, which Steve's market would be called a duplex. You've got your detached properties. Then you've got your rental market. And then you've got your new construction / assignment market. So condos, I think in both our markets, I don't really think they're going to go up in value this year. They could go down in value. They could stay the same. I think that's best case scenario this year. What are you seeing with the duplexes? I know you don't have as many of those.
We don't have many at all.
Okay.
We don't even have enough where it really registers.
So in our market, that's the hottest property type. We bid on one with a client the other day, and there was 8 offers on a property. So that's still moving. What are you seeing with detached?
We haven't had a lot of detached business this year. I would say the market is still pretty good. It's the better spot to be, I guess.
Even with all the overpriced detached listings sitting there not moving, the other stuff that's bang on is moving.
Yeah, it feels like when I run the numbers, it was crazy to see like detached apparently has the most amount of inventory, but I don't believe it. I mean, I guess it's a tale of multiple markets though. Like we listed something the other day at 1.5, which was too high, and we got over ask, and
so it wasn't too high.
It wasn't. I wasn't happy with the listing price, but I took it, and it worked out well for everybody. So I think the under 1.5 is still a pretty hot market for the most part.
Have any of your buyers told you that they've taken advantage of the new mortgage rules to buy from that 1,000,000 to 1? Have you had I haven't had that conversation yet.
We don't have anybody looking in that price point right now. Investor looking at that price point right now, but nobody else.
But they got to put 20% down anyways. They're an investor. So it's not gonna impact them, right? Steve, I want to give you your flowers. I make fun of you on this show all the time. We had a client that was moving out your way, and I connected with them with you, and they had a pleasant experience. So just want to feel like we don't actually compliment each other enough on this show. We have lots of people we've connected with each other over the years, and you did a great job. So there you go. It's not even an ad; it's just the truth.
You don't know what's crazy about that? I actually got that message from you, and then I actually, for like the first time, just because of vacations and things, I showed the property, and I wrote the offer, and I negotiated the deal. And
you're a real estate agent.
Generally speaking, on the buy sides, I have like longtime team members that do that, right? But they were on vacation, that sort of thing. So it's finally a friend of mine, Tom Storey, sends me business, and
I've been trying to send you business for years.
I actually did it. Actually, you know what? All of my agent referrals in 2024 were people that we have had on this podcast.
Oh, look at that. Look at us. Maybe we're being strategic doing this, inviting people on.
Yeah.
Huh.
Some of them even have their own podcasts.
Interesting. I've got a story about that other podcast, but I'm going to save it for another day. All right. I want to tell you a story about one of my clients who has just made the best financial decision I've ever seen. And I want to give them a huge shout out because they were texting me. Steve, when the Bank of Canada overnight rate was still at 5%, what percentage of people do you think were taking the variable rate?
No, almost none.
Almost none, except for one of my clients.
What was their variable?
I
Was
can
it
tell
prime
you,
minus.
it was
prime
a
plus?
really good, variable rate even at the time because they got kind of like employee pricing based on the bank they work for. So I don't know exactly where it started, but what I do know is at this moment in time, after the last rate cut that we saw and they got to 3%, their variable rate is at 4% today.
Okay.
They obviously
So
got a really good discount on the rate.
Yeah.
But
Very.
still, at the time, they could have taken the 3 or 5 year fixed at probably 4.5. I'd have to look back at the exact moment, maybe even a little bit higher than that. It could have been in the 5s actually over a year ago. And they said their mortgage broker, because I know mortgage brokers and realtors take a lot of crap on the internet when they're not right about things. Their mortgage broker told them, because we were texting yesterday, like laughing about it. I was like, I got to interview your mortgage broker. Sounds like a genius. Or they were just really lucky. That's probably what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
They said once they start cutting rates, they are going to go down 200 basis points in about a year. And he's like, this person's crazy. This is never happening. But even if they went down 100, I'd still be happy with where this ended up. And so they took the risk and it paid off. When they first started this variable rate mortgage at whatever the rate started at, and again, they did get a good deal off the bat, it would have been $163,000 in interest over the first 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Today, after all the rate cuts, that interest that was $163,000 is now down to $94,000.
Can you share the lender so we know if it's adjusting payment or if it's adjusting?
I think it's BMO.
Okay, so it's just shortening amortization. You're gonna crush it.
I know.
You're gonna crush it. And
I know.
As rare as the person that took the 10-year fixed rate at 2.2% in the end of 2020. So, I mean, everybody, if you talk to everybody, they all bought NVIDIA at 72 cents, right? So, I mean, it's the rare case.
I wanted to bring that up because not many people took that risk. And we've been talking for like the last 6 months about like, is it time to take the variable and ride it down? And it looks like the people that took that risk are now benefiting. Like both, we should actually talk about this. Variable and fixed rate, for the most part, are now under 4.5. Right? It's got to be close to that. I think so.
Not the variables that I was offered, that's for sure.
But your variables were different.
They are, but they also aren't.
If I go on an online calculator now, I can find variables under 4.5 for 20% down.
Maybe a few.
No,
possibly.
You can.
Yeah. I mean, at what? Home Trust? Like, get out of here. Nobody's getting that mortgage.
They exist.
My lawyer won't even deal with Home Trust. If you get a Home Trust mortgage and I refer you to my lawyer and they see that that's who the lender is, they reject it because they're so terrible to deal with. I mean, yeah.
I think you can get from most big banks, you can get fixed and variable that are not too much different in rate right now. We've now gotten close to that point.
Did we talk about what my offer is from Manulife?
No, what was it?
The original, so 509 for a 5-year is on their website. They sent me the letter at 459.
This is a 5-year fixed?
5-year fixed. And then
that's high.
And then they sent me, I phoned in and I was like, by the way, I didn't even get their letter yet because of the Canada Post thing. I just phoned in because I knew the letter was sent. And he's like, oh, don't worry about that. That's too high. So currently I have 444 from Manulife, which is always high.
Yeah.
And as of recording this, bank yields yesterday took a dump. So if they can stay down for, bond yields. If they can stay down for a month, I can get it much lower than that. Can you imagine if I got a 399? Can you imagine?
But now that fixed and variable are close, I'm not talking about your situation because you're Mr. Fixed for life. But
so if fixed and variable are close, why would you not take the fix?
Because generally, fixed and variable are not close. Generally, the variable is lower. I know what just happened. Trust me, I'm very much aware. But in a calm environment market, variable wins long-term most of the time. It is lower.
Do you think, and this is, I definitely have my opinion. Do you think that now, after this whole thing, Canadians have just become way more risky with their mortgages? Like I want to say until the pandemic, none of my buyers, like none of my buyers took variable rate mortgages. They all took the 5-year fixed rate. Everybody, they didn't even take the 3-year fixed rate. It was never even a thought. Everybody went, what can I get for 5 years so I know my rate won't go up? And now they don't do that. Now everybody's gambling on 1 year. Tom Storey gambled on 1 year. And then
spoiler alert, didn't work out. Well, it was good for that 1 year. It was the after the 1 year that was the problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could have still been riding that. I mean, I guess that was probably in your old place.
Did I tell you? I haven't even told you this. I just for giggles, I asked my current lender to send me what it would look like. I didn't do it, I promise. Because keep in mind, I went, what if I rebroke and went to this rate? And so here's the thing, because this is like,
when did you break? Has it been a year? Hasn't been a year.
No, it hasn't been a year. But that break made sense. I would do that all day long, again and again and again, just to be clear. Yeah. But so I broke from a really crappy high middle 6 rate, because when I renewed was the worst time ever, to a low 5 rate, which at the time was pretty good. And now there's, 4.29 and 4. There's other options out there. It's like, just send me what it would be. I talked about publicly on this podcast last time I broke my mortgage. It was $15,000 penalty, but I would save about $25,000 over the next 3 years. So I'm like, you know what? I can make that math, and I did it. And it brought down my payment significantly on a monthly basis. If I were to do it again now, which I don't think I'm going to do, but the first option they gave me, which is why I have a bit of a problem knowing what I know. He sends me the stuff, and this isn't my mortgage guy. This is just like, I just went to my guy at the bank and said, like, just entertain me, show me what this is. And he sends it. And if I broke it now and paid a fee of I think it was like $9,000 or something, which I don't think I'm not going to do, but, the monthly payment difference comes down $1,200 a month. Except what not that they snuck in there. It was clearly in writing, but if I wasn't educated on this, I wouldn't have really thought about this. That's pushing the mortgage back to 30 years.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I got no interest in breaking to start at the beginning and get the hell out of here. So I wrote him back and I said, can you send this back to me and show me what it'd be based on the same AM I'm currently left with, because I've really got that down, and show me what the payments would be. And I am patiently awaiting that email.
I still don't have that one. Yeah, no, man, you got 2.5 years left. Just ride that out.
Which I'm fine, but I just
you guys might move again. You guys might upsize again.
You know what I realized too, and when I did that change in mortgage, even though I had to pay that big penalty the first time, where I took my mortgage to was giving out basically cash if you transferred. I had $4,100 that they just gave me, which I didn't know was even there. They talked about it when I switched, but it was just there. So I just moved the money out and then just put that $4,100 directly on principal and did a little lump sum the other day because it's just sitting there. So I don't know if it's boring hearing about my mortgage stuff, but I feel like lots of people are going through this stuff right now, because I still think if you have a 6 or even a 5.5 or more on your mortgage right now, it's still very much looking at your options to break. I really believe it. Steve, have I bored you that you've left the frame? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, my water was outside the door there, and I had to get it. And I mute often because I am a little phlegmy, so that's why I needed my water. So,
okay. Do you remember when people were saying "date the rate, marry the house"?
I mean, that's in the U.S. saying forever.
Man, those people are looking not so great right now. In Canada, it's more like have a long-term rocky relationship with the date and pay a penalty to leave and still like the house. But in the States, their mortgage rates are still mid sixes. That date the rate, marry the house is now a few years into it. And I think people are not super happy because there's been no refis that make sense, right? You can refi without the penalty there and it's great, but you can't port the mortgage. So they have a totally different problem that we have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're about to have more problems too, right? We got all in. I don't know if it's happened yet. Will let us know in the comments if something crazy has gone on. But at this point, our government's talking about spending like the pandy again.
I know.
Just to come out of this stuff. So I'm like, guys, you didn't learn your lesson. And then guess what? Jagmeet's like, oh, I'm going to back up Carney now because we're spending everybody else's money and I don't have to do nothing. So I don't know, man. The inflationary pressures are possibly there, and that's why I am sticking fixed rate, but I am winning my bet with Nolan, which was 4.59, and I win because I've got the guaranteed 444 locked in, and hopefully it will get even better than that.
What do you win? Bragging rights, or was there anything on the line?
He has to cut a $100 check to a food bank, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
So,
I had two questions for you. I was in New York for a real estate conference called Inman. I was there mid-January. And there was two things that caught my attention based on the seminars that I went to and things like that. One, like every conference in every industry right now, all people could talk about was AI. That was the only thing. It was like everything. It's like, all right, I know this is the future. I get that someone will clip this at one point and be like, what is the internet? And it's going to be the same clip. But the whole thing was like in our industry, it's like they're getting very close that you can have a fully automized AI version of yourself with your tone and it can call people.
Really?
And so they're like talking about like, these tech guys on stage being like, we can have you calling your clients, or not you, but someone else that's an AI person calling your clients, touching base, asking how they're doing. And we're going to help you generate more leads to sell more homes. And I'm sitting there and like, maybe I'm cynical, but I'm sitting there in the audience. Like even if I didn't know it was a robot talking to me, if I found out,
I would fire you. Like
I would be
you
so
are too lazy
pissed.
to. Yeah.
I would be so pissed.
That's so American, though. It's so.
I know
like,
that's.
You're gonna voice dial. You're not gonna voice dial 10,000 people. Your robot's gonna voice dial 10,000 people, and you're gonna be playing golf. And then when the deal comes in, the robot's gonna do the deal for you too. If that happens, they don't need you anymore. You idiot.
Right. But I was just sitting there. I'm like, am I the only one thinking like I would really not enjoy this if I was on the other side of the phone and I found out? If my clients knew I had a robot calling them. If the lead
gets far enough down the lead funnel, then it's just going to click over into your headset and you're going to get a briefing on what the conversation has been about so far. And I'm like, get out of here, you losers.
Most of this technology is geared towards agents in the States that run these mega teams, and they spend thousands and thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on Zillow and Boomtown and all these things that people think are search portals, but are really just sending your information to a real estate agent that's going to call you. And it's like, well, if the conversion rate for these online leads, and I don't know who this person is, goes from 3% to 5% because of an AI dialer, that's a business decision I'm happy with. But I wanted to bring it up because I'd like to know, like, people listening to this, let us know in the comments. Like, if a business called you and you found out it wasn't a person, would you be okay with it?
Not only that,
like, mad about it?
I can understand how you're like, okay, I'm going to have an assistant AI, and maybe they do all that stuff, and maybe they have a full conversation. But the fact that they're going to do it in my voice to fool that person into thinking they already spoke with me, and I'm going to be like, hey, nice to meet you. And they're going to be like, wait a minute, didn't we have an hour-long phone call the other day? Yeah. Also, what knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing moron
knuckle-dragging
are you speaking to that they're like, this is obviously, I mean, it's not there yet. Maybe it's there. I don't know. Dude, the whole AI thing right now is very interesting because they had that, DeepSeek come out. And we're going to revolutionize this because for some reason, this $6 million Chinese startup is better than all the other AIs together immediately. Does anybody believe that? Does anybody believe that? Okay, so let's say, for instance, they prove everything true. You know what I read the next day? No, sorry, it was 2 days later. Another company came out and said, a Chinese company came out and said, oh no, we already beat DeepSeek as well. So now it's just like either it's evolving so fast, which apparently it always is.
The 4-minute mile, it's just the new version of that, right? Once someone finally broke it, then it keeps getting broken and broken, right?
Does anybody believe that? Does anybody believe anything that comes out of China about their innovation? It's not exactly a state of innovation. It's a state of copying whatever they can. And then, so NVIDIA tanks, right? Which I didn't even notice because I'm broad-based index, but NVIDIA totally tanks. And then the guy, not NVIDIA, but another Dutch company that does similar stuff, comes out and is like, guys, do you think if AI is more efficient that we're really going to need less chips? Or do you think that it's going to explode and we're going to have even more chips? Like, it's not like we're going to do it off of old computer chips.
Right.
Like, we're doing this still. Like, it's all going this way. So I don't know. I'm very terrified of AI of being the next bubble. I think it is the rest of our life. This is sort of happening.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is the rest of our life. But I also think, like anything, we don't know how we're going to use it yet. Right? Like, we don't see it coming for how it's really going to be used day to day. And somebody will innovate something of where it does integrate. I don't think it will replace. I don't think anything has totally replaced any humans or anything like that yet. There's going to be some point in time when it does have mass influence on like industries like ours. But at this point in time, I mean, I know what ChatGPT the other day was telling me was wrong, and I was trying to get it to correct itself, and it refused. And I was like, no, this is not what I want. I want this. And then it just kept going in that. So is that going to happen on your home purchase? Well, and you just believe it?
The conversation at the conference from the CEO of CoStar, which is a massive company, if you want to look it up in the States, they own homes.com among many, many other things. He was basically saying that AI is going to remove the filter. So, like when you're searching for properties and you're filtering like 3-bedroom, this, I want this. Eventually it's just going to get where like there's no more filters. You just say like, I want a home in this area with this, and it must have a pool, and the living room must be this size by this size. Click enter, and then you are given the list of properties that only fits your criteria. You're not dealt with all the other stuff. Because
your buyer always ends up with the exact property that fit their criteria from the beginning, right? I only want this and this and this and this. And then they phone you. They'll be like, hey, I'm really considering buying a nice little condo, maybe in Maple Ridge, 2-bed, 2-bath. I need 1,200 square feet. And then 6 minutes later, you're like, so I found this studio apartment in White Rock. We're buying it. We put in an offer yesterday. And you're like, what's happening?
Yeah, but even if it's on the other side where people are being unrealistic with what they want, at least if they were to go these funnels and type in what they want or talk to the computer about what they want, they'll find out pretty quickly, oh, there's only 2 that exist. What I want doesn't exist. So now I have to be more realistic. Now I'm going to do a different search with the budget that's $100,000 higher or has 1 less bathroom or whatever. Yeah. I think that is coming way quicker than we think. Like even on my MLS as a real estate agent in Toronto, there is now a search thing. There's an AI search bar in our MLS that I've tested and honestly isn't so great right now. But it's going to learn quick. It's going to learn really quick. And I think it will speed up the process for people to get a list in front of them of something that they actually want. But and the filters will be gone. It's going to
work somehow, and we don't know. But like the other day, I was using ChatGPT, the most current one, and all this, and I was like, "Do not use Wikipedia as a source. Here's what I want you to find me." And then every answer was Wikipedia, and I was like, "I told you not to use Wikipedia as a source. Please disregard Wikipedia completely and get me different sources." Everything was Wikipedia. I'm like, "Yes, there's problems." So it's not there. It's not there. It's coming. We don't know how it will affect us. We all thought that we would be riding hoverboards in 2015, and nobody in Back to the Future had a cell phone. So then what? Right? Like nobody knows.
Old man yells is where Steve's going with this conversation. All right. I found out something very interesting in the mortgage space I wanted to share. We had a team meeting earlier this week, and Jesse, who's been on this podcast and on my main channel quite a few times. So the whole conversation, like if your renewal is coming up and you don't want to stay where you are, you can switch banks and not be stress tested. You know how that came out recently?
Yeah.
He's saying people that are trying to do this at some of Canada's biggest banks, even though they don't legally mandated have to stress test you anymore, quite a few of them are
still doing it
because they don't want to take on anyone that's 110% qualifying for this mortgage. They don't want to just give out mortgages to get business from other people. They want to have good clientele. So they're actually imposing the stress, not all, but don't let that be a surprise to anybody out there that's coming up for renewal. And you were told, now I can switch to a different bank to get a more competitive rate and they won't stress test me. What I'm hearing from the ground level is they're still doing it.
Or is it an effort to price fix?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Allegedly.
Maybe.
You could say
I mean, I guess I'd want to know which banks are doing it, which ones aren't. I mean, you would, if you're the broker for that bank, like if you're the mortgage specialist, you want to try and remove that barrier.
You'd be annoyed, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it's probably a mandate that they have that says, I don't care what the rules say that we don't have to do anymore. This is what we do.
That might be because a lot of people are trying to finance now and they don't have the equity they had before.
Possible.
Right. So that might be like, that's not exactly the coolest thing. Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm not switching banks, so I don't have that story. Manulife's coming through for me in the end.
You got to tell Manulife you are switching banks. Try to get some negotiation going. I got two more things.
I am switching banks, Manulife.
Okay. Development charges are something we've talked about on this show ad nauseum at this point. It's starting to see like places in Ontario are actually listening. And what guest was it that we had that was it Foch? I don't know who it was that basically said like getting 100% of nothing is not that great, right? So these cities are gonna have to figure it out pretty soon. Proposed development charges changes in Mississauga. 50% reduction of development fees across the board proposed. 100% reduction in development fees for 3-bedroom purpose-built rentals. None at all if you're building a 3-bedroom, because I guess that's what they want more of. Defer payment of all development charges from building permit to certificate of occupancy, so you don't have to pay it till later.
Still got to pay it.
Yes, but now if this goes through, it's only 50% of what it used to be. And 35% reduction.
Which is still 25% higher than it was 5 years ago.
Fine. But like, let's try to say there's little wins happening here, that people are actually listening to this and understanding that if they keep charging developers like crazy, nothing will be built and we'll have a much worse housing crisis in the future if we do it this way. It's silliness. And the last one was 35% reduction in property taxes for new purpose-built rental units for 35 years.
Stupid.
This is all proposed.
Property taxes are what should be going up, and development charges should be going down.
So this was from Mississauga, and I would just like to ask Olivia Chow, are you listening? Are you watching what's going on? Are you watching what's happening here? Vaughan first. Now Mississauga is proposing it. Let's make this a trend. Let's actually move forward with this. Let's stop pretending that we care about housing affordability by building like 16 low-income housing over here that takes 4 years to build. And let's actually do something that moves the needle for the average person living in Toronto. Let's do something about it.
You can't. She's never going to do something about it. She's got an NDP mindset that all the rich people will just pay the taxes for all the poor people, and somehow that economy is going to work. It's never going to happen. Never.
Have you heard of this U-Haul report? This is where I want to end the show today. I think this is interesting.
Oh, I had one more thing to talk about.
Okay. Yeah. What do you want to talk about? You want to go?
I will leave it until after U-Haul because I think it's better than U-Haul.
I don't think it is. I think this is breaking news.
I think it's at least like budget level, not even U-Haul level.
Top 25 growth cities in Canada for 2024. What does that mean, Stephen? Well, thank you for asking. This report by U-Haul tracks growth based on the net gain or loss of one-way U-Haul equipment rentals. Okay? So
so they're saying the cities are growing because we have to drive the trucks back to Toronto ourselves from these cities.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. That's a
Number
good measure,
one.
actually. That's probably a very good measure. Yeah.
Number 1, Calgary. Number 2, Edmonton.
Gross.
Number 3, Belleville, Ontario.
Ooh, where's that?
That is just before you get to Prince Edward County going east.
Okay.
Number 4, Trenton, which is just beside Belleville.
I was going to say, are the rest of them all Ontario?
It's mostly all Ontario. There's one. Medicine Hat is number 7. Brantford, Ontario. Pembroke, Ontario. Collingwood is number 8. Collingwood's an expensive market. Maybe it's just like they bought their secondary properties in Collingwood and I don't know, for whatever reason, took a one-way U-Haul up there. Parry Sound, Chatham, Innisfil. Those were the top 11. So kind of interesting. This is 2024 data.
Very surprised not to see Kelowna or Vernon on that list.
Yeah, Ontario remains Canada's economic hub, and its smaller cities, especially those in Four Seasons recreational areas, are drawing people seeking affordable and a more relaxed lifestyle. So there you go. Growth cities. I know it's top 25. I only gave the top 10 because that's all I screenshotted for this episode.
If you're going from Vancouver to Kelowna, though, you're not renting a U-Haul and doing it yourself.
So that's actually what I was thinking, but I didn't say it out loud yet. Is like the more expensive markets, you're probably not renting a U-Haul going one way. You're probably hiring a cross-country moving company that costs a lot more. So perhaps the cheaper markets are the ones that the U-Hauls are going to. Right? That actually makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Stephen, wrap this up for me. How are we going to end this episode? With a bang?
I had a thought about,
all the comments.
This is just beginning. This is just beginning. This is just the beginning of the down. And it's like,
why do you care about the comments?
Because this is where I get most of my information from.
Okay.
The good, wise people in the comments, of which other shows have proven why you shouldn't have those people on. And then you'd stop having guests for an entire year. Your show goes to crap, and then you start having guests again.
Doom.
So that's where you get all the good information from. But I'm losing my friggin' train of thought now just because I'm shitting on those guys so hard. Okay, so it's always like, this is just the beginning.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like, but wait a minute. We are about to be, within a month here, 3 years past the peak.
Mm-hmm.
And so all those guys that are like, oh, it took Toronto in 1990, blah blah blah, to bottom out, right? It took until 1984 for Vancouver to bottom out after 81.
Took Toronto I think 4 or 5. I think 95 is where things kind of really.
From 91.
Yeah, 89 was the actual year, but yeah.
Okay, so it's just the beginning. No, it's not just the beginning.
We're halfway there.
It's not just the beginning. We're halfway through, even in the worst case scenario, guys.
And even in the 89 crash for us, the biggest damage was done in the first year, just like the biggest damage in this happened in the first 6 months.
Dude,
right? And then it's just a slow,
The peak stuff came off, all that March 2022 peak stuff or February 2022 peak stuff, that was all off by December. It was all off by December. And then you kind of had an up and a down and up and a down and blah, blah, blah. Got the boringest chart of all time right now in the Fraser Valley of like this. I did it on one of my videos. It's just this kid that's like, when you were really young and you were on those metal slides. I don't know if you had plastic slides when you were a child. You probably did. But I had metal slides because I am 44 years old. And thankfully, no wooden slides. That would hurt. And there's just like, if you hit it on the wrong day, like a super sunny day.
Oh, it'd be hot.
You would just like stick to it. And there was no speed. So I had that on my thing. Like it was a kid just arms crossed going down the slide, like super slow. I'm like, that's where we're at right now. We're just, I agree with you. We're declining right now. There's nobody's denying that the overall market right now is not declining. It is. It's a very slow decline, and we are halfway through it, I would say, at this point. Unless, of course, some crazy thing happens that probably happened the day after we record this, because that's how it always goes on.
always
and then
happens,
the economy crashes. But like, let me point out to you that all you people that were out there poo-pooing on the market for the last 2 or 3 years, none of that had to do with tariffs. So if you were right because you were wrong, right? You missed it. You missed it completely. So if it's going to be a black swan event, if anything gets worse from here, and it will be bad things like trade wars or tariffs or wars or different things like that. But generally speaking, I'm starting to think that we're feeling more positive just because we have more certainty now. For sure.
That's what we've always needed.
Yeah, for sure. Prices are going to go down right now. It's just the way they're trending, at least in the condo market, in the attached market where I am. And it may get better price-wise, but probably not for a while. And so that's why you should take advantage of it now. I think there's opportunities now that buyers have that they just are going to miss out on.
We're finally getting to the point that the true cost of ownership of a property. So it's like people that bought in the peak, as long as they took their fixed rate's almost done, but as long as they took a 5-year fixed at 2-point-something%, their cost of ownership, even if that property dropped $300,000 in value and the next person took a 5% or a variable, has been pretty similar. Like there's been huge price drops from the peak, but the rates went up so much that the true cost of owning it over at least a 5-year period of time were like fairly similar. We're now finally getting to a point that the interest rates are in the low to mid 4s and the prices have come down significantly, that it's now finally, because the prices haven't gone up yet, right? Even though the rates have gone down, it's getting pretty close where like the true cost of ownership is finally actually lower. The price dropped and the rates dropped and the prices haven't gone up yet. And the question for people looking to get into the market is like, well, how long will that last? And I don't have the answer for you, but it's interesting to watch.
Yeah. And I think like you've now got prices for sure at off peak 25%.
Yep.
Let's say some spots, 15% in most spots. And you've got rates that are 2% less. Like these are the types of opportunities that you've been waiting for, even though you still don't like it and it's still too expensive and it's still overrated and blah, blah, blah. Tell me you don't own real estate without telling me you don't own real estate. I get it, right?
You're fired up today, eh?
Let me tell you, I'm not. I'm rapping it. I'm just saying that people are stupid because I called somebody stupid on my channel, and they're not somebody. I just called everybody stupid.
That's better.
Which is generally how I think of the world, by the way. Which is also what the YouTube commenters do. Which is probably
everyone's stupid except me, right? That's the mindset. Not me. That's how you think.
No, I was going to say, you. I don't think you're totally stupid. Definitely my wife's not stupid. Everybody else?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. It depends what you're smart in, I guess. But I don't know. I just think that it's not, there's no panic to FOMO in. There's no panic to FOMO out. That's already lost. Like the people that are losing have already lost. So just cut your bait already. Right. And I think it's just going to continue outside of massive trade wars and massive layoffs and all the things. I think it's just going to continue to be kind of a good opportunity for folks. Like just if you can get into that spot, and that's what you're seeing, right? You're seeing people that want to upsize. You're seeing
it's happening all the time right now. Like we're actually very busy. The transactions are slowly coming together, but there's a lot of people trying to do things. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're going to be a victim of those crappy, I guess this is the real downside to the speculators buying those small little crappy units is now that's all that's been built.
Yep.
And then you don't have your first time buyer. Like picture your first time buyer. They're, I don't know, let's put them at 28 years old. They've saved up. Their parents are giving them $50,000. They've got a 20% down payment. They can afford a $600,000 one bedroom in the city somewhere, whatever that gets you. I don't even know if it does. And rather than, or maybe they got to go outside the city, but rather than get a nice little 2-bed, 1-bath or something like that, they're now crammed into a 400 and, they're not going to want to buy the junior 1-bed that, you know, the toilet's right beside the kitchen island. For some reason, there's an island in a 400 square foot unit, right? Like, I don't know. I think that's going to be the real downside, is we're going to have all these units that people don't really want when times are bad. And that's what we're seeing in Wally right now.
Thing.
The investors are out, and as a result, those investor units are just stinking it up.
Well, you know who's not stupid, Stephen? Anyone that's liked this episode today and is subscribed to the show. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. We will see you next week. Bye.
You're going to have no part of your giveaway. That's all you.